The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Kai's cramped Seattle apartment like 1,000 tiny accusations, each drop echoing the regret he had buried deep under layers of wanderlust. He stared at the faded family photo on his nightstand, his father's stern gaze frozen in time, and whispered to the empty room, "I chose the horizon over you, Dad, but it doesn't make the silence any less deafening." In that moment, as thunder cracked open the sky, Kai realized the call he had been dreading for years was not just a ringtone, but the final unraveling of the only tether he had left to home. Kai Harlan had always been the boy who mapped stars on his bedroom ceiling in the dusty flatlands of Lubbock, Texas, dreaming of places where the air didn't carry the weight of unspoken judgments. At 28, with his lean frame etched by years of restless pacing and his green eyes sharpened by too many solitary sunrises, he had traded the endless cotton fields for the perpetual drizzle of Seattle, where tech startups promised reinvention and coffee shops hid the ache of isolation. His job as a graphic designer for a mid-tier ad agency paid the rent on his Capitol Hill walk-up, but it was the weekends that called to him most fiercely, those stolen hours plotting routes on worn atlases, fingers tracing the jagged spine of the Pacific Northwest. Kai was gay, a fact he had confessed to his family at 22 in a halting phone call that ended with his mother's soft sobs and his father's clipped, "We'll pray for you, son." They hadn't prayed him straight, but they had built a wall of polite distance, invitations to Thanksgiving that arrived like afterthoughts, always laced with the subtext of change. That wall had held until the night his phone buzzed at 2 a.m., the screen lighting up with "Mom" in stark white letters. Kai bolted upright in bed, the sheets tangled around his legs like restraints, heart slamming against his ribs. He answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep and foreboding. "Mom? What's wrong?" "Kai. Honey." Her voice cracked like dry earth under boot heels. "It's your father. The cancer. It's back. Worse this time. He wants to see you. All of us. Together, one last time." The words landed like a punch to the gut, stealing his breath. Kai swung his legs over the edge of the bed, feet hitting the cool hardwood floor, grounding himself in the here and now of his anonymous life. Outside, the city lights blurred through the rain-streaked glass, a neon smear of possibility and escape. He had booked his ticket to New Zealand 2 days ago, a solo trek through fjords and forgotten trails, his first real plunge into the unknown after years of scrimping and sidelining dreams for stability. Departure was in 48 hours. "I'm coming," he lied, the words tasting like ash, because even as he said them, his eyes drifted to the backpack half-packed on the couch, stuffed with trail maps and a journal he had vowed to fill with stories untainted by regret. The next morning dawned gray and unrelenting, the kind of Seattle overcast that seeped into your bones and made every decision feel heavier. Kai called in sick to work, his voice steady over the line as he fabricated a migraine, then spent the day pacing his apartment, phone clutched like a grenade. He scrolled through old texts from his sister, Lila, who had married a rancher named Trent and settled into the family spread outside Lubbock. Her messages always bright but brittle. "Miss you at the barbecue, Kai. Dad asks about your art." Lies, all of it, because the last time he visited, 3 years back, his father had gripped his shoulder too tight during a backyard beer and muttered, "You could still make something of yourself here, boy. Find a nice girl, build a life." Kai had smiled then, excused himself to the barn, and cried into the straw until his eyes burned. By noon, the pull of the trip went out. He texted Lila, "Flight delayed. Stuck in meetings. Tell Dad I'll be there soon." It was a half-truth, the kind that eroded trust drop by drop, but Kai couldn't face the sterile hospital room, the beeps and whispers that would force him to confront the man who had taught him to throw a baseball, but never how to love without apology. Instead, he zipped the backpack, slung it over one shoulder, and stepped into the elevator, the descent mirroring the drop in his chest. At the airport, the hum of travelers enveloped him, a symphony of escapes, and for the first time in days, he breathed freely. The flight to Auckland was a blur of recycled air and in-flight movies, Kai sketching fjord silhouettes in his notebook, each line a defiance against the guilt gnawing at his edges. He landed under a sky so blue it hurt, the air crisp with salt and promise, and checked into a hostel in Queenstown, a ramshackle wooden affair overlooking Lake Wakatapu. His roommates were a mix of Aussie backpackers and a quiet German named Elias, who sketched landscapes with the precision of a surgeon. Over instant noodles that night, Kai shared a beer and his story in fragments, the words spilling easier with strangers. "Family's complicated," he said, shrugging as if it were a minor plot twist. Elias nodded, his blue eyes steady, and Kai felt the first crack in his armor, a warmth that had nothing to do with the stove. Days blurred into hikes along the route-burned track, Kai's boots crunching over mossy stones, the world reduced to the rhythm of his breath and the whisper of wind through beech trees. He snapped photos on his phone, not for Instagram, but for the journal, captions like, Day 3, peaks that dwarf regrets. Back in the hostel, Elias would pore over them, his fingers brushing Kai's as he pointed out a hidden waterfall. There was a spark there, tentative and electric, the kind that bloomed in shared silences rather than grand declarations. One evening, as they sat on the dock watching the sunset bleed orange across the water, Elias turned to him. You carry it heavy, this thing with your family. But out here, it's just you and the mountain. What does it whisper? Kai hesitated, the question peeling back layers he had sealed shut. That I'm tired of saying sorry for who I am. The admission hung between them, raw and unadorned, and Elias leaned in, their lips meeting in a kiss that tasted of lake mist and unspoken permissions. It was gentle at first, exploratory, then deeper, Kai's hands threading through Elias's sun-bleached hair, pulling him closer as if to anchor the moment against the tide of tomorrow. As the weeks unfolded in New Zealand, Kai's world shrank and expanded in equal measure, the fjords of Milford Sound carving canyons in his soul, deeper than any family rift. He and Elias became inseparable shadows on the trail, their days a tapestry of bungee jumps over rushing rivers and nights tangled in narrow hostel bunks, skin against skin under threadbare blankets. Elias, 32 and a freelance photographer from Berlin, had his own ghosts, a conservative upbringing that had chased him across continents, but he wore his queerness like a badge, unapologetic and fierce. We don't owe them our hiding, he murmured one dawn, tracing the freckles across Kai's collarbone as the first light filtered through the curtains. Kai believed him, in those stolen hours, letting the pleasure of touch erase the echo of his father's disapproval. But distance has a way of sharpening edges, and halfway through the trip, Kai's phone finally betrayed him. The battery had died days ago, a small rebellion, but when he plugged it in at an internet cafe in Wanaka, the notifications flooded like a breached dam. 20 missed calls from Lila, voicemails stacking like accusations. He hit play on the first one, her voice trembling. Kai, where are you? Dad's gone. Last night. He asked for you right up until. God, why didn't you come? The cafe's chatter faded to a dull roar in his ears, the world tilting as guilt crashed over him, cold and unrelenting. He stumbled outside, collapsing onto a bench overlooking the lake, the water's glassy calm mocking his storm. Elias found him there an hour later, wordless, and wrapped him in a hug that smelled of eucalyptus and empathy. They cut the trip short after that, Elias booking a red-eye to Seattle at Kai's insistence. I have to go back, Kai said, packing his bag with mechanical precision. Face whatever's left. The flight home was torture, Elias's hand in his a lifeline through the turbulence of regret. Landing in Seattle felt like resurfacing from deep water, the rain greeting them like an old friend, slick streets reflecting the city's indifferent glow. Kai's apartment was as he left it, a time capsule of avoidance, the family photo now accusatory under the harsh kitchen light. Lila arrived the next day, her pickup truck rumbling into the alley behind his building, dust from the drive still clinging to her boots. She was 30, sturdy and sun-kissed, her brown hair pulled into a practical ponytail, eyes the same green as Kai's but hardened by years of holding the family together. They embraced on the doorstep, her hug fierce and fleeting. Then she pulled back, searching his face. You look different, like you've been places. There was no warmth in it, only the edge of betrayal. Over coffee at the scarred wooden table, the reckoning unfolded. He waited for you, Kai, every day, asking if his boy's coming home. And you were, what? Jumping off bridges in some fairy tale land. The words sliced deep, Kai's defenses crumbling. I was scared, Lila. Scared of him looking at me like I'm broken, like my life is a disappointment because I love men instead of. He trailed off, the old wound reopening. She shook her head, tears carving tracks through her makeup. It's not about that. Not anymore. It's about family. You chose your adventures over us, and now Dad's gone, and Mom's a ghost in that house. Trent and I, we're done carrying the load alone. Don't come to the funeral if you can't commit to more than postcards. She left with the slam of the door echoing like finality, and Kai sank to the floor, the linoleum cold against his palms. Elias found him there, drew him up into bed, their bodies a balm against the ache. For weeks, They navigated the grief together, Elias's camera capturing stolen moments of Kai's tentative smiles during walks along the Puget Sound, the water's vastness a mirror to his turmoil. But Seattle's rhythm reasserted itself, work pulling Kai back to deadlines and Elias to a gig in Portland. Their goodbye at the Greyhound station, laced with promises of weekends, and this is just the beginning. Alone again, Kai threw himself into designs, pixels a distraction from the void. He joined a queer hiking group through a meetup app, trails through the Cascades becoming his confessional, stories shared around campfires about coming out and cutting ties. There was Marcus, a barista with a laugh like summer thunder, who flirted over trail mix and kissed him under a canopy of evergreens, but it fizzled after a month, Marcus wanting roots while Kai still chased winds. Then came the email from his mother, forwarded through Lila, a simple forwarding of the funeral eulogy, Trent's words printed crisp and condemning. A man of faith, who built his life on family and forgiveness, even when it was hard. No invitation, no olive branch, just the quiet erasure. Kai deleted it, but the hurt festered, manifesting in sleepless nights and sketches of jagged cliffs that bled into abstracts of fractured homes. Elias called from Berlin, his voice a transatlantic thread. "Come here, Kai. See the world with me, not run from it." The offer dangled like a key, and Kai booked the ticket, landing in a city of spires and secrets, where Elias waited at the airport with a bouquet of wildflowers and a kiss that promised reinvention. They wandered the Brandenburg Gate at twilight, hands intertwined, the wall's history a poignant reminder that barriers could fall. In a tiny Kreuzberg flat, they built a rhythm, mornings with strong coffee and Elias's lens capturing Kai's unguarded joy, afternoons lost in museums where art whispered of loves defiantly lived. But the idyll cracked under the weight of distance. Lila's texts grew sporadic, then silent. A family group chat dissolved without fanfare. Kai's mother sent one last letter, postmarked Lubbock, her script elegant but edged. "We've sold the house. Starting fresh in Austin with Trent and Lila. Praying you'll find peace wherever your road takes you." It arrived on a day when Elias was shooting a wedding in Munich, leaving Kai to read it alone on the fire escape, the Berlin skyline of foreign comfort. He crumpled it, tossed it into the street below, and for the first time, didn't cry. Instead, he felt a hardening, a resolve blooming like the first green shoots after frost. Elias's world became Kai's anchor and undoing. The German's wanderlust a mirror to his own, but laced with a restlessness that pulled them apart at the seams. They crisscrossed Europe that summer, from the lavender fields of Provence where they made love in a rented Citroën under a canopy of stars, to the cobblestone alleys of Prague where Elias proposed a loose commitment over pints of Pilsner. No rings, just us against the maps. Kai agreed, heart swelling with a love that felt vast as the Vltava River. But doubt lingered like fog off the water, whispers of his family's abandonment echoing in quiet moments. Back in Seattle by autumn, the rain returned with vengeance, turning the city into a watercolor of grays and regrets. Elias extended his visa, crashing on Kai's couch-turned bed, his camera gigs funding freelance edits that Kai squeezed between agency shifts. They hosted game nights with the hiking crew, Marcus showing up with awkward waves and craft IPAs, the group a patchwork quilt of chosen family. One evening, as leaves skittered across Gasworks Park, Kai confessed over a shared blanket. "I stopped apologizing in my head, Elias. For being gay, for leaving, for everything." Elias pulled him close, their breaths mingling in the chill air. "That's my brave wanderer." But bravery has its fractures. A package arrived from Texas unannounced, Lila's handwriting on the label, containing Kai's childhood sketchbooks and a single note. "Mom found these. Said you might want reminders of who you were." Inside the pages, pencil drawings of ranches and rivers, a boy's dreams untainted by identity's thorns. Kai spent the night poring over them, Elias asleep beside him, the past a siren call that drowned out the present. The next day, he drove south on impulse, a solo road trip to the Oregon coast, waves crashing like unresolved symphonies at Cannon Beach. There, under Haystack Rock, he burned one sketch in a driftwood fire, the flames devouring the boy who once begged for approval, ashes scattering on the tide. Elias met him in Portland upon return, their reunion a frenzy of hotel sheets and whispered vulnerabilities. "You scared me," Elias admitted, fingers tracing the new tattoo on Kai's wrist, a compass rose inked during a hungover morning in a Cannon Beach parlor. "Thought you'd vanish like smoke." Kai kissed the worry from his brow. but the seed of impermanence took root. Work pressures mounted, the agency demanding overtime for a campaign launch, leaving Elias to prowl the apartment like a caged wolf. Jealousy crept in subtly, Elias eyeing Kai's late-night texts from Marcus, who had become a platonic trail buddy, their hikes a harmless echo of what was lost. Winter clamped down, holidays a minefield. Kai's mother sent a Christmas card, generic and unsigned, the family photo excluding his face like an erasure. He and Elias opted for a cabin in the Olympics, snow blanketing the evergreens, a fire roaring as they exchanged handmade gifts. Elias's a leather-bound journal etched with "For the stories we chase." They made slow love by the hearth, bodies mapping each other's scars. But in the afterglow, Kai voiced the fear that had simmered unspoken. What if I'm too broken for this? Too much runner, not enough stayer. Elias cupped his face, eyes fierce. We're both runners, Kai. That's why we fit. But doubt festered, manifesting in arguments over small things, like Elias's flirtation with a model at a shoot or Kai's secretive packing for a solo weekend in the San Juans. The breaking point came in February, a storm lashing the sound as Kai returned from a design conference in Chicago, jet-lagged and hollow. He found Elias on the couch, laptop open to an email chain with an X from Berlin, words like "miss our fire," jumping out like betrayals. It's nothing, Elias insisted, voice cracking, just nostalgia. You're mine now. But Kai saw the fracture lines, the same ones that had spiderwebbed his family ties. Is it? Or am I just the American detour? The fight escalated, voices rising over the wind's howl, accusations flying like shrapnel. Kai accused Elias of emotional nomadism, Elias countering with Kai's unresolved ghosts. You left your father to die alone. How can I trust you won't leave me the same way? The words landed like a slap, Kai recoiling as if burned. He stormed out into the night, rain soaking through his jacket, walking the empty streets until his phone buzzed with Elias's text. I'm sorry. Come home. He did, but the damage lingered, a quiet rift that widened with each forced smile. Spring brought tentative mending, cherry blossoms in the U District a pink promise, their dates reclaiming parks and pubs. Yet Kai felt the pull of solo travel stronger, browsing tickets to Patagonia and stolen browser tabs, the fjords calling like old lovers. Elias noticed, confronted him over dim sum in the International District. Go if you need to, but don't make me the casualty. Kai promised he wouldn't, but promises are fragile as eggshells under boot heels. The agency offered a promotion, remote work flexibility that screamed opportunity, and Kai seized it, pitching a sabbatical to South America. Elias supported it, kissing him at the airport with a fierceness that bordered on farewell. Write me the world, Kai, and come back whole. The flight to Buenos Aires lifted like absolution, the Andes a rumpled blanket below, but as the plane banked west, Kai's mind replayed the title of his life. Abandoned after choosing travel, and still, the apologies clawed at his throat. Patagonia unfolded like a dream woven from wind and ice, the jagged spires of Torres del Paine slicing the sky as Kai trekked solo, his pack lighter than the burdens he shed with each mile. He journaled furiously by glacial lakes, pages filling with reflections on his father's death, the eulogy's sting, and the love he had dared with Elias, now a distant hum across oceans. In a refugio at the trail's end, he met Javier, a Chilean guide with olive skin and eyes like polished obsidian, who shared mate around a crackling stove and stories of mountains that taught humility. Their connection sparked over shared silences, Javier's hands steadying Kai on a slippery ascent, evolving into campfire confessions under a Milky Way blaze. You're carrying more than gear, Javier observed one night, his accent wrapping words like wool. Kai nodded, spilling the saga of family fractures and flight-borne romances. Javier listened without judgment, his own tale of a disapproving village mirroring Kai's Texas ghosts. They parted as friends, Javier slipping him a hand-carved wooden bird, for when you feel caged. Back in Buenos Aires, Kai extended his stay, immersing in tango halls where men danced with fluid grace, bodies pressing in rhythms that blurred lines of longing. He hooked up sporadically, anonymous encounters in steamy apartments that scratched itches but left him emptier, the thrill paling against Elias's remembered touch. Emails from home trickled in, Lila's tone thawing slightly. Mom's asking about you. Send a photo of the new place. Kai replied with trail selfies, captions light but laced with ache, and she responded with baby pics of her and Trent's newborn, a niece named Willow he had yet to hold. The photos stirred a paternal pull, visions of teaching her to map stars. But he pushed it down, boarding a flight to Seattle with Javier's bird tucked in his pocket like a talisman. Elias waited at arrivals, arms open, their embrace a collision of relief and reignited fire. "You smell like glaciers," Elias teased, nuzzling his neck. And that night they reclaimed each other in a frenzy of limbs and laughter, the apartment windows fogged against the summer haze. Stability beckoned, Elias landing a gallery show in Pioneer Square, Kai's promotion securing a larger flat in Fremont with a view of the Ship Canal. They adopted a rescue mutt named Scout, walks along the water becoming rituals of whispered futures, talks of rings and routes intertwined. But autumn winds carried omens. Kai's mother called, her voice frail over the line, the first direct contact in months. "I saw your pictures, Kai. You look happy. That's good." Hesitant small talk about Willow, the Austin heat, but underlying it, the unspoken, grief's residue, faith's unyielding grip. "Your father would have been proud of your talent," she added, and Kai's throat tightened, the lie a bandage over the wound. Hanging up, he turned to Elias. "She didn't say she loves me. Not like that." Elias held him through the night, but the call unearthed doubts, Kai questioning if love required roots he couldn't plant. He dove into a side project, designing a travel app for queer nomads, Pixels birthing a community of stories like his own. Late nights at the drafting table drew complaints from Elias, arguments flaring over takeout remnants. "You're building walls again," Elias accused, and Kai fired back. "I'm building a life, not hiding from one." The gallery opening was a triumph. Elias's prints of their Patagonia echoes selling briskly, champagne flowing under Edison bulbs. Kai mingled, charming collectors, but his eyes sought Elias across the room, their gaze locking in a moment of pure connection. Later, in the after-party haze at a Belltown dive, a tipsy patron draped an arm over Elias, the flirtation innocent, but Kai's jealousy a live wire. He pulled Elias into the alley, kiss turning possessive, words tumbling out. "You're mine. This is real." Elias searched his eyes, rain starting to patter. "Is it? Or are you afraid of losing me like you lost them?" The question hung, unanswered, as they stumbled home, making love with an urgency that bordered on desperation. Days later, Kai discovered the betrayal in a forgotten browser tab. Elias's search history for visa extensions couples, queries about green cards and shared leases, plans Kai hadn't been looped into. It felt like a net closing, the romance shifting from adventure to anchor, and panic surged. He confronted Elias over breakfast burritos, voice steady but shattering inside. "Were you going to trap me here? Make me the settler I fled." Elias paled, explanations tumbling. "I was researching for us, Kai, because I love you enough to want forever, not just forevers and fragments." But the damage rooted deep, Kai seeing his father's ghost in the domesticity, the expectation of conformity. He slept on the couch that night, Scout whining at the divide. Winter loomed, Thanksgiving a solo affair with takeout turkey, Elias dining with Portland friends. Kai flew to Austin on a whim, knocking on his mother's door in the suburbs, the house smelling of pecan pie and pine. Lila answered, surprise softening to wariness, ushering him in. Willow cooed in a high chair, tiny fists waving, and for an hour, Kai held her, the weight of potential family a balm and burden. His mother watched from the kitchen, eyes misty. "You've grown into yourself, Kai. It's beautiful, even if it hurts us." The visit ended with hugs and half-promises, but driving back to the airport, Kai felt the chasm's width. Landing in Seattle, he found Elias packing, a note on the counter, space to breathe. "Portland for a week. Love you." The emptiness echoed, Kai curling with Scout, the dog's warmth a poor substitute. He poured the hurt into the app, user stories flooding in. Tales of disowned sons finding kin in hostels, lovers built on trails. One message resonated, from a user in Montana. "Stopped running when I realized home was the horizon I carried inside." The week stretched into 2, Elias's texts a lifeline of misuse and photos of rainy Portland streets. But Kai's responses grew clipped, the app consuming him like a fever dream. He walked Scout at dawn, the canal's fog a shroud for his unraveling, questions circling like gulls. Was love a cage or a compass? His family's abandonment had taught him flight, but Elias's devotion demanded landing, and the terror of both choked him. He coded through nights, the app's beta launch a quiet success, queer travelers sharing pins for safe havens from Buenos Aires to Big Sur. Elias returned on a blustery morning, duffel slung over shoulder, eyes shadowed. They stood in the doorway, words failing until Kai pulled him inside. Their kiss a dam breaking, salty with unshed tears. I thought I'd lost you, Elias whispered against his neck, and Kai clung tighter. You almost did. I almost let you. They rebuilt in fragments. Therapy sessions via Zoom with a counselor specializing in expat queers, unpacking the baggage of Badlands and Berlin walls. Christmas came soft, a tree strung with compass ornaments, gifts of custom maps tracing their journeys intertwined. Spring bloomed tentative, Kai's app gaining traction, a feature in a local queer mag dubbing it the Nomad's North Star. Invitations poured in for talks, and he and Elias road tripped to a conference in San Francisco, the Golden Gate, a bridge literal and metaphorical. There, amid panels on intersectional travel, Kai spotted Marcus in the crowd, now a tech nomad with a startup beard. They caught up over burritos and the mission, Marcus's eyes lingering. You seem settled. Happy. Kai nodded, but the encounter stirred silt, a reminder of easier affections. Back home, the stirrings escalated into temptation. Elias jetted to a shoot in Vancouver, leaving Kai to a weekend of app debugging and scout walks. Marcus texted, in town for a hike? Old times. Innocent enough, but the meetup at Discovery Park turned charged, trails winding to a secluded bluff where Marcus's hand brushed Kai's, the ocean's roar drowning reason. They kissed, brief and electric, Kai pulling back with Elias's face flashing in his mind. I can't, he gasped, fleeing down the path, guilt a stone in his gut. Confession came haltingly over video call, Elias's face crumpling across the miles. It was nothing, Kai pleaded, a moment of weakness. But Elias's voice hardened, the hurt a blade. Weakness, or the truth you've been dodging. That commitment scares you because it means staying, facing the mess you left. The call ended in silence, Elias hanging up, and Kai spent the night pacing, the apartment a cage of his making. Days blurred into radio silence, then a single text, need time. Don't wait. Summer scorched in, Kai throwing himself into app expansions, hiring a coder named Riley, a non-binary artist from Tacoma with tattoos of circuit boards and cacti. Their collaboration sparked professionally, late nights at coffee shops birthing features like grief trails for processing loss on the move. Personally, Riley became a confidant, their conversations over foe in the ID peeling back Kai's layers without demand. You're not broken for wanting both, Riley said one evening, stirring basil into broth, freedom and connection. That's the human hustle. Elias returned in July, tanned and distant, crashing at a friend's in Ballard. They met at a neutral cafe, the air thick with unsaid recriminations. I kissed him, Kai admitted flatly, and it meant nothing. But it meant everything about my fears. Elias nodded, weary. I know, and I get it, Kai. But I can't be the one you run to after running away. They parted as lovers demoted to friends, Elias subletting a studio downtown, their dog walks with Scout a bittersweet co-parenting. The betrayal's aftermath was a slow bleed, Kai's designs turning abstract, swirls of color evoking tempests. Lila called unexpectedly, Willow's babble in the background. Mom's not great. The move. It's lonely. She wants to see you, Kai. No sermons, just pie and talk. He flew to Austin, the heat a slap after Seattle's mildness, the suburbs a grid of manicured lawns hiding heartaches. His mother greeted him at the door, frilier than memory, her hug lingering. Over lemon chess pie, she spoke haltingly of faith's evolution. Your father. He loved you in his way. Couldn't bend, but the love was there. Tears fell, mutual and mending. Willow on Kai's lap a bridge to what could be. Flying back, resolve hardened. He texted Elias. Dinner? My place. The meal was awkward, pad thai steaming between them, but honesty flowed. I messed up, but I'm done running from us. Elias searched his eyes, vulnerability cracking his guard. Prove it. Stay. Bill. They kissed across the table, tentative then true, the spark reigniting with cautious hope. Fall painted the leaves gold, their reconciliation a dance of therapy and trust-building hikes, Scout bounding ahead. The app hit a milestone, 10K users, and Kai keynote at a queer tech summit in Chicago, Elias in the front row, his applause a personal ovation. But shadows lingered, a letter from Lila revealing family fractures, Trent's affair, the ranch sold, a move to Montana looming. Come if you want, she wrote, but only if you're all in. Kai waited, the pull of blood versus the life he had forged. Elias sensed the turmoil, their nights tangled but talks turning to futures. Go if it heals you, Elias urged. But come back to me. The decision crystallized on a rainy dawn walk, the canal's ripples reflecting a truth. Family wasn't a place, but the choices that wove it. Montana's big sky swallowed Kai whole upon arrival. The Harlan Ranch a weathered sentinel amid rolling plains. Lila's new setup a modest cabin off the grid near Bozeman. She met him at the dirt airstrip, Willow strapped to her chest, Trent absent in the rear view of divorce papers. He's gone, Lila said simply, handing Kai a thermos of coffee as they bumped along gravel roads. Took his secrets and half the herd. The landscape stretched endless, a canvas of golden aspens and distant peaks that echoed Kai's internal vastness. The visit unfolded in rhythms of ranch life, mending fences under a relentless sun, Willow's giggles a counterpoint to the silences. His mother had stayed in Austin, her health a fragile thread, but she called daily, her voice stronger, laced with tentative pride. Evenings by the fire pit, Lila shared the unvarnished. Dad's final months, rants against the lifestyle, softened by morphine dreams where he confessed regrets. He said to tell you he was sorry, she whispered, embers glowing. For making you feel less. Kai wept then, the release a flood, holding his sister as stars wheeled overhead. Kai's yes was a breath, a leap, sealing with a kiss that tasted of pine and promise. They drove back to Seattle wired on possibility, the app's growth funding a joint venture, guided queer retreats, blending Kai's designs with Elias's lens. Autumn deepened, their Fremont flat alive with plans, Scout's tail thumping approval. But crisis brewed in whispers, a virus sweeping the world by winter's edge, borders closing like fists. Lockdowns hit hard, Seattle's streets emptying, the agency furloughing Kai while Elias's gigs evaporated. They hunkered down, baking sourdough and streaming old westerns, intimacy deepening in confinement. Yet isolation amplified ghosts. Kai's mother hospitalized in Austin with pneumonia, Lila's updates frantic. She's asking for you. Came the call, and Kai booked the first flight south, Elias insisting on accompanying. Airports were ghost towns, masks muffling breaths, the flight a gamble of proximity. Austin's hospital was a sterile maze, his mother pale in her bed, oxygen hissing. She gripped Kai's gloved hand, eyes brightening. My boy, look at you, with your man. Elias stood sentinel, charming nurses with broken Spanish. And in that room, family redefined itself, Lila arriving with Willow, a circle of imperfect loves. She rallied, discharged to home care, and Kai lingered a week, cooking meals and reading Willow bedtime tales of wandering wolves who found packs. Returning north, the pandemic's grip tightened, retreats canceled, the app pivoting to virtual meetups. Financial strain mounted, arguments flaring over budgets and what-ifs. Elias, ever the optimist, buskied portraits on street corners when allowed, while Kai freelanced logos, their bed a refuge amid uncertainty. One night, thunder rattling windows, Elias confessed a fear. What if this breaks us? The world ending, and we with it. Kai pulled him close. Then we end together, beautifully. Spring 2021 brought vaccines and cautious reopenings, but betrayal struck from within. Kai discovered embezzlement in the app's fledgling retreat fund, a trusted beta tester siphoning donations for personal debts. The loss was devastating, users' trust shattered, lawsuits looming. Kai spiraled, blaming himself. Nights pacing the balcony overlooking the canal, rain mingling with tears. I built this on sand, he railed to Elias, who held firm. No, on heart. We'll rebuild. The crisis peaked in a boardroom showdown via Zoom, Kai defending the vision to irate investors, his voice cracking but resolute. Elias's presence off camera, hand on his knee, grounded him. They salvaged enough to restructure, crowdsourcing from the community, stories pouring in of support. Your app saved me on the road. We'll save it now. Healing began in small victories, a micro-retreat in the Olympics testing waters, 10 souls circling fires with tales of resilience. Summer healed deeper wounds. Kai flew solo to Lubbock, the old ranch sold, but ghosts lingering in the fields. He scattered Elias-gifted wildflower seeds on the spot of his boyhood treehouse, a ritual of release. Lila joined via video, Willow waving, their bond mending like barbed wire fences. Back home, Elias planned a surprise, a hot air balloon over the San Juans at dawn, the basket lifting as vows renewed below. I choose you, every horizon, Elias said, and Kai echoed, tears drying in the wind. Fall's Harvest Moon saw the app's relaunch, stronger, with features for virtual kinships. Kai's mother visited, her first trip west, Willow in tow, the Fremont flat bursting with laughter and Lila's pecan pie. Over dinner, she raised a glass. To family, wherever it finds us. Elias's arm around Kai, the circle complete, imperfections embraced. Winter's hush settled over Seattle like a benediction, snow dusting the Space Needle in rare finery, the city a hushed canvas for quiet revolutions. Kai and Elias's life had woven into a tapestry of deliberate choices, the flat now adorned with framed prints from global jaunts, and Willow's crayon masterpieces thumbtacked to the fridge. The app thrived modestly, a beacon for wanderers seeking solace in code, its forums alive with threads on healing heartlands left behind. Kai moderated late into nights, Elias curled beside him, scouts snoring at their feet, a triad of contentment forged in fire. Yet depth demanded reckoning. Kai's therapy unearthed strata of shame, sessions probing the apology ingrained since Lubbock sermons, equating his desires with damnation. You don't know the world you're dimming, the counselor urged, and Kai internalized it, volunteering at a youth center in Capitol Hill, mentoring queer teens on mapping identities without borders. One boy, 16 and wide-eyed, reminded him of his younger self, sketches of impossible escapes clutched in trembling hands. How do you stop feeling wrong? The kid asked, and Kai shared his scars, by walking until the path feels like home. Elias's gallery show in spring showcased a series titled Horizons Held, intimate portraits of Kai through lenses of loss and love, the opening a crush of admirers and allies. Marcus attended, now partnered and settled, their handshake genuine, old flames reduced to embers. Lila and Trent reconciled tentatively, Montana life stabilizing, Willow's first steps video called with cheers. His mother, healthier, penned letters of evolution, enclosing Bible verses reframed through grace. Love bears all things. Crisis revisited in summer's blaze, a wildfire season scorching the Cascades, evacuations rippling through their network. Kai and Elias hosted displaced hikers, the flat-away station of cots and communal meals, stories exchanged over Chili evoking his own evacuations of spirit. One evacuee, a trans man from eastern Washington, shared a betrayal mirroring Kai's family dissownment post-transition. I stopped apologizing when I started living loud, he said, and Kai nodded, the echo a chorus. Autumn brought a pilgrimage east, Kai driving cross-country with Elias' shotgun, Scout in the back, a loop through Texas heartlands. Lubbock greeted with dry winds. The family plot a humble marker where Kai knelt, tracing his father's name etched in granite. I forgive you, he whispered, and myself. They camped in Big Bend, stars a dome of absolution, making love under canvas to the yips of coyotes, bodies a testament to survival's sensuality. Winter deepened resolve, Kai proposing a book from his journals, Trails of the Unapologetic, Elias editing with tender precision. Publishers nibbled, a small press in Portland biting, the advance funding a ring exchange on a New Year's hike to Rattlesnake Ledge, simple bands engraved with coordinates of their first kiss. Lila officiated via drone feed, Willow's babble the flower girl's song, his mother toasting from Austin. To loves that endure. Spring's renewal saw the book's launch, readings in indie bookstores from Seattle to Santa Fe, audiences leaning in for truths unvarnished. Kai spoke of abandonment's ache, travel's tonic, the cessation of sorries as salvation. Elias captured it all, their life a road unspooling, pit stops at chosen kin, Riley's wedding in Tacoma, Marcus's housewarming in Vancouver. Summer's road trip circled the continent, Willow strapped in for segments, Lila's laughter harmonizing with Elias's playlists of folk anthems. They traced Route 60 SIXS ghosts, Kai reflecting on his own migrations, the boy who fled now the man who returned reshaped. In a Grand Canyon overlook, as thunderheads brewed, he turned to Elias. This is it. The horizon we built. Fall harvested fruits. The book climbing indie lists. The app partnering with NGOs for refugee routes. Kai keynoting at a Pride summit in Chicago, voice steady with hard-won wisdom. His mother relocated west, a bungalow in Ballard. Sunday dinners a ritual of pie and progress. Faith bending like willow branches. Winter closed the circle, snow falling soft as they gathered for Willow's third birthday, the flat aglow with candles and kin. Kai watched Elias chase her giggles, heart full to bursting, the journey's arc bending toward light. He had chosen travel over family once, paid the price in solitude's coin, but now wove them seamless, blood and beloved, roots and Rome. No more apologies, only affirmations. The gay man who stopped running to embrace the wild, wondrous now. In that warmth, Kai knew the truth. Home was not a fixed point, but the courageous carry of self through storms, landing where love waited, unyielding and true.